You got the tea, honey.
Welcome to another episode of the Relebogile Mabotja Podcast on my YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you can be the first to find out about brand new episodes. Yeah, this person, all I can say is it's not the first time I'm interviewing her, but that interview made me feel like, we need to sit down properly and have a long conversation. I've admired her work for many years, got an opportunity to work with her, and the hint I'll give you is, darling. Yes, darling, the formidable Sophie Ndaba is with us. How are you?
I'm fabulous, darling, darling. I'm always fabulous.
Did you have fun with reliving the Queen Moroka character on stage at the SAFTAs?
Yes, with Sputla. It was so amazing, and it was just that thing of him even coming up with his own lines, ad-libbing there, make me some tea, and I'm like, hey, well, don't you know I'm royalty? Royalty doesn't make tea for anybody. Royalty is served, honey.
Yes.
So, we jazzed up the script a bit, but it was quite nice to just have those little memories, and also being with someone who you worked with for many years is also kind of nice, reminiscing, chatting backstage. So that's what it was about, just chatting backstage, reminiscing and remembering those are the good old days. Yes.
I feel like there was an era of soapies, particularly when you guys did it. I mean, you were there for many years.
Yeah.
And there is something about what you guys were doing, and I can't pinpoint. Maybe you can help me. What would you say you, as the generations cast at the time, were doing that others were not doing on screen? Was it showing black people in affluent lives? Was it because there's something different that you were doing?
I think everybody's still authentic now, but we're being more authentic on the story, on the performance, on bringing characters to life. Remember, it's not easy, creating a new character and allowing it to live for a very long time. Soap is not easy in the sense of, so we've seen this story about you. What else as a character? And I think, the era of soapies was so spectacular because, and kudos to the writers and the creative team, because they're the ones that made sure your character remained sustainable, but it was also the onus was on you to make sure you keep that character alive based on the script that you've been given. So it was a lot. It was a lot in the sense that people didn't realize for them to even love this particular character, that particular character had to give them something. You know how Queen gave them something constantly, and, rolled her eyes, darling, So there was nothing in the script that said, say darling like this. You would have to say darling like that because you feel like, I want to give them more today.
Yes.
Let me give them a bit more darling, or let me give them a bit more a person who is, if you're a murderer on the show, and we already know, like, when you come back, you must come back like even scarier than before. So that's what you give, because we already know and then what? What else?
Next?
What else? So the performance was always key, and I think, and I'm hoping young people get into the industry now will come in with that thing of, how do I retain and become sustainable with this persona, with this character, and how do I grow it? Because it's also your job to do that, not the script writers.
Did you ever get tired? And now, the way I can relate it, I know there were times when I was in soapy world where we refer to it as the sausage factory in our industry, right?
Absolutely.
Where it's like scene after scene after scene. Did you ever get tired of that sausage factory and playing the character?
Absolutely not. I think maybe because of the character, she could create anything and it works. She could decide, okay, now I want to be a no makeup queen, and this is the reason. Maybe she's depressed. It would work. Like, if you feel like we've overdone the glam, let's tone it down a bit, because there's a time they toned me down. So yes, I believe there was room for that.
Okay. And I mean, I feel it with radio sometimes.
Yeah.
Where I need to have those 10 minutes in the car. I'm like, do I have to do this?
Yeah.
And then once the mics are on, or once the cameras are on, you do what you got to do.
Absolutely.
But is there more? Did you ever have those, unless you didn't have the is there more because you were always doing other things?
When you say is there more, you're referring to is there more on the character or is there more of me?
Is there more of you?
There's always more of me, come on. I've never ever been comfortable doing one thing. Remember, I started my career of anything at age 14, 15. I was already a model. 16, I was already 15. I was already wearing lashes and long nails, and people were confused. Is this girl Mahosha or what's happening?
Kind of back in the day, if you have nails and lashes, it's like you're a working girl.
And I get 17, you're wearing your hot pants shorts, and you're just being a child, a little girl who just loves beautiful things, and there's always misunderstanding, so it's that thing you're reinventing yourself through the growth and not getting bored with yourself and saying what else. And I always had the what else. I mean, that's how I began my event planning business, because I was baking, cooking, doing all these things and making money out of it and feeding my family. At that time, at that age of 17, 18, I was a breadwinner for my entire family. And I had a daughter at that time already. So you can imagine I had to level up. I had no choice not to level up. I had to level up. I had to make sure that I never go back to poverty. I never go back to where I started, and just make sure that whatever promise I made my mother, let's say a daughter as a teenager, I'm going to now take care of you. And I needed to fulfill that promise to say, I made a mistake, but I'm going to do that. So for me, I never, ever ran out of ideas. That's why there was events. 1 minute I'm cooking, 1 minute I'm planning an event, 1 minute I'm doing somebody's hair, 1 minute I'm doing somebody's nails. So the beauty and whatever industry has always been, and arts has always been my thing, because I knew if this one doesn't work, because remember, there were no soaps initially. There was always a 13-part series drama, and then you take a break for 6 months and you hope for another job.
Yes.
You go to casting. So whilst the castings were casting, when you are baking, when you are doing somebody's hair, go next door. When so for me, there was always room to reinvent myself. So even when I believe I became greater in what I was doing, I always wanted to be better. I always strived to be better. I always thought, okay, if this doesn't give me money now, what else can I do? Oh, okay, there's events. And then if I can't do events, then I can do interior decor. So people don't know my other business. I do interior decor. I do people's homes. I do renovations. So they don't know, because that's something that I don't advertise. And I don't talk about it as a Sophie. It's got its own brand and its own vision. So I'm never bored.
That I've always admired about you. We spoke about it on my radio show when I said I'll never forget you saying, Generations is my billboard. I do all these businesses, and I remember you telling me that. But I want to touch on the fact that you speak about mama, and we've spoken about mama.
Yes. Yes.
What I still am trying to piece, help me with the timelines of, there was a period you were actually in foster care.
Oh.
So help me understand those timelines.
The little timelines. Okay.
Yes.
So my dad, first of all, was living with one kidney at the time, and he was living with diabetes and high blood pressure. So he was in hospital in and out a lot of the times. My mother was the only breadwinner. She couldn't really keep the family going on her own. And her father was Zimbabwean, and he was a chief in Zimbabwe. But then by the time I got to go there...
your grandfather?
Yeah, my mother's father.
Wow.
Yes. So by the time he passed on, it was when I then arrived. So it was a very different kind of ambience, And my sister was already living there. My mother's firstborn was living there, married already with kids, So it was just me going in there at that time, because my mother thought, okay, you can go to your sister, live with her. She's on a farm. She's married with kids. You can play with the other kids, and you're not stuck here alone.
And how old were you at the time?
Probably 8.
Okay,
probably
so
8. Yeah.
That's then when you went to Zim.
That's when I went to Zim. But then when I got to my sister's farm, I looked at this farm, right? And then I said, and then she had a husband who I couldn't understand. And this husband was very touchy-feely. And I remember my grandmother saying, they've got no right and move. My grandmother was very chacharach. So she was that woman that was like, don't allow. And when we teach our kids those kind of things, we don't understand the impact they have on them as they grow and how they take them in and how they can help them, right? So it's very important. So that grounding that I had from my grandmother at a very young age, going to church with her, so they don't even want Muruti to say mwana. She was like, I can't let anybody touching my child. So when I got to my sister's house and she had this husband and 2 little kids, 3 I think at the time, and I was still young, and every time he said goodnight he kissed me, I thought, grandma said no kissing, and grandma is far and she's gone, so I was like, so I found that kiss very weird, and I was like, how long kiss? And then I wrote my mom a letter and I said, can I go to boarding school?
Wait, so you never told your sister? And I get why.
No.
They are
I'm
now
8 years old. How do I tell my sister your man is putting his tongue in my mouth? How? In which level? So, and you're 8-year-old, she'll be like, are you silly? So for me, a child was brought up to pray and to forgive. So I prayed about it as an 8-year-old. I wrote my mom a letter, and then I said, I need boarding school. My mom said, get like a December. My mom got on a train, came to Harare. When she gets there, she says, why do you want a boarding school? And I said, I don't like farms. My mother actually died without even knowing the story. I said, I don't like farms. And she says, why don't you...
She never found out.
She never found out, no. I was protecting my sister. I just wanted her to have a peaceful life. It's her and her kids, Mina. But imagine an 8-year-old thinking like that. So that's why I say the grounding my grandmother gave me made me mature to know right and wrong at a very young age. You understand the key, why it's so key for parents to groom their kids to know what is wrong and what is right, what is acceptable, what is unacceptable. So I didn't know the depth of the unacceptability. I just thought these are the rules Nkhono gave me. So I'm not playing here.
And it never went further than Akusuna.
No. We wouldn't know how far it would have gone. And thank God, God just made an opportunity. I just moved. I don't think even my sister knows the story. So wow. I don't know if I ever told her really. But my point is that for me, I just felt, and luckily she's divorced from him, so I can talk about it. But for me...
I love how you say luckily she's divorced from him.
Yeah, luckily. So that it doesn't mess up the relationship. But, more than anything, I just, love to talk about it when I can, because I want people to be careful what they expose their children to be careful of saying, "Ngwanaka safe." Who is ever safe? So you must make sure for whatever ambience you take them to, you vetted the ambience. And how far can you vet it to know, this is not possible? So you do what you can. That's the bottom line. You do what you can. So that story of me ending up in foster care, fast forward.
Wait. So Mama, when you said, I don't like farms, she accepted that answer?
Yeah, she could see, man, my child was vacationing, man. Farm it's too quiet. That was me. So hakia boarding. And I said, I don't want an expensive boarding. Kisafela boarding. Any boarding. You understand? And she said, okay. So now, my mother didn't have money. Obviously, my dad is in hospital. She's footing all the bills. She's trying to take care of all of us. And she said, you know what? Then my sister said, oh, no, there's a children's home. And my mother said, is it fancy? It's in the suburbs. And it's fully funded, so you don't have to pay school fees. You don't have to pay anything. So my mother said, okay, so how can we get her in? And they said, oh, well, remember, she is half South African, half Zimbabwean, so we can try and get her in because of apartheid.
Yes.
So they use the apartheid part. The child can't go back because of this, because the mother and the father, they're going through something, apartheid. And then that's how I got accepted to the children's home. But I was obviously sworn to secrecy as young as I was, because I think they knew my attitude, that I shouldn't tell people that I don't have parents. So
that you do have parents.
Yeah, I do have parents, yes. So I then went in. Yes, I miss my mom. So when other kids cry, I cried too, because it's like, I miss my mom. How many thousand Ks is she? So for me, it was like she's not even present, because I see her only Christmas. Throughout the year, I don't get to see her. It's too expensive. So when they cry, I cry. The only difference is that this one is not adoptable. I can adopt you. Children's home. You get adopted. So Nakadi Sundays, oh, this one is pretty. I get the parents to be come on Sunday, choose to meet and greet. Mina I was told meet and greet don't come this side. So I was never picked. I was never introduced to any parents who wanted to adopt me, possible parents who wanted to adopt me. And I had an opportunity to come home one Christmas, and then there's a lady who said, "Oh, you know, Mampasane, I see this girl. She's going to Zimbabwe, Harare, but I hear children's home. How can she children's home under our watch?" And my mom said, "What do you mean?" And she says, "Well, I live in Bulawayo. Bulawayo is in Ndebele land." And she says, "And I'm barren. So what I do is I adopt kids and I take care of them. And me and my husband would love to not adopt her, but semi-adopt her because there's kids her age in the house. And it will take the weight off your shoulders." And my mother was elated that I'm not going back to an orphanage. So for Form 1, we call it Form 1, grade what? Grade 7, grade 8.
Yeah.
So for grade 8, because we're doing Cambridge, right? Education. So grade 8, I then went to Bulawayo Morningside, and that's how I started living there. And I lived with this family that's foster care. Remember your key question was foster care. How does it all come in? So that's when I was then in foster care in this home with a boy, a girl, my age, and then a baby. And that's where my story with God really started, where I had to now understand, so life is so. You know, where that woman, when my father was better, we went on a train, got there with my dad, he was feeling better. He left, they would carry a lot of tin stuff with them. So he brought a lot of tin stuff. And then about a month after I was there, this lady said, "Kids don't sleep in bedrooms, they sleep outside."
What?
Cinderella, honey. Oh, yes. Oh, you don't know the story? Nobody knows it? Well, many people know it, but not really.
What?
Oh, yeah. She said, so me and the boy and the girl slept outside on concrete floor. Me and the boy and the girl washed in cold water. It's winter, summer, spring. Me and the girl and the boy were not allowed to eat mutoho katsukiri. Tsukiri is for adults only, so we ate mutoho or muswewu, white porridge with no sugar. Me and the boy and the girl never knew what's protein, yanama. We only knew muriwo, we call it muriwo. So we only had pap and muriwo for supper.
Was this family rich or well off?
Very well off. They were living in the suburbs, Morningside, on the main road, very posh. The husband was a train station director. So they had money. I mean, she was like, if you know Hyacinth, darling, on Keeping Up Appearances.
I love Hyacinth is my favorite
So she was like a Hyacinth, but an African Hyacinth. Keeping Up Appearances, always wanting to look posh and fabulous and always showing up, and people must know Guti, and she knows everything.
Why did she want children in her home just to abuse you?
I think it was just to say, I have a family. I think it was a family. I never ever asked. I never ever thought about it. But when I look back and I assess the situation, she wanted people to say this woman has a family, and also to keep the husband. Because also when you've got kids running around, the man has that, siriti seo. Because now, how do you become a housewife? You don't have kids. You have a husband who's a director at a train station, and you've got nothing to show for it. So that whole baby and teenagers was that, And my dad, then I think a year later, he saw I wasn't writing letters, and that Christmas he came and he said, I didn't respond, and then he came out of the blue and he said, "You're very skinny," because we're not eating lunch. Lunch was a no-no. So the boy, I've always wanted to look for this boy. I don't know where I would find him, right? He would say, I got 30 cents or I got 60 cents from my friends at school. Whether he stole it or he had it, bottom line, he said, I've got sisters at home that I need to take care of, right? Siblings. So he would get this money, buy bread, cut it into slices, put it in the oven, put butter, because he bought all of this with his own money. The nanny's busy taking care of the baby, so she's nowhere to be seen. She's somewhere in the house, a big house, massive house. So we are busy in the kitchen quickly before the nanny comes to the kitchen, and he feeds us all for lunch. Every day he would do that. I can't remember his name. Like when you've got trauma, you shut down. So for me, I believe it's one of my trauma started many years ago, and just challenges and things. It's like God was building me to be a woman who's going to do something great one day, because when I look at this journey, I'm like, it's a lot. It's actually started a long time ago, this journey. It started with the Cinderella story, right? And then now there's another story, other stories, but this was the key story. This was the foundation.
No, because you were a child, you had taken on the responsibility of wanting to look out for yourself and protect the people around you.
Yeah.
Then at the same time, you think, okay, great, I'm going to be living with this fancy family.
Yeah.
And when you were relaying that this person was saying to your mom, no, Mutlise, something was like, why do you want this child so bad?
Yeah.
Now it's like I was already preempting this horror movie of sinister happening.
Yeah.
So when you say like you slept outside on a concrete floor,
yeah,
did you guys go to school?
Yeah, we went to school. I went to, I think, Montrose High. Yeah, I went to Montrose High in the area. Just the area was Morningside, so it's very posh. I mean, Morningside is like Morningside in Joburg.
Yes.
So it's that posh. So it's not rural. It's not kasi. It's not anything. Yeah.
Kiko
tropong and kiko sabapong.
Yes.
Yes.
So when Papa says you're skinny, and do you tell him Khorobona? Ariji and
no, I was too scared of God. Remember, Khonwaka Foundation taught me the fear of the Lord, taught me not to snitch, taught me those kind of things. So I was so scared that God is going to be angry with me if I tell him everything about this bad woman. So when my dad said, why are you so skinny? I said, oh no, I joined gymnastics. So I do gymnastics. I love gymnastics. I was very sporty, of course, but I did more tennis and hockey than anything else. But I said, I'm doing gymnastics. He says, and tennis and hockey. And I said, all of it. And he says, really? Where do you sleep? So when my dad came, surprise, I'm at the gate. He didn't announce. Those days we don't announce. He was at the gate. They welcomed him, and then she whispered in my ear, there was a bedroom in the house. I had 2 beds. She says, you'll share this bedroom with your dad. And then she looked at me with that look, dare tell him. So now I wasn't scared of her. I was only scared of God. So I wasn't doing it for her. Maybe she thought, oh, thank God she didn't say anything. It was never for her. It was for my sanity and my relationship with Christ to say, these are things that I'll let God deal with her. It's not my job. Like, I don't want that job to be taking care of horrible people or to be dealing with them or to be doing bobby back. So my dad was like, we are leaving. I was happy to pack.
Did he notice? Did he see something?
Yeah.
What did he see?
He just saw, I'm lying. He says, you're lying, but I'll leave it like that. And I said, I'm not lying. He says, you're lying and we are leaving. Oh, yes. Because I think he asked me, where do you sleep? Then he opened the wardrobes.
Your clothes are not there.
My clothes are not there. It's linen, it's towels. He's like, if this is your room, it doesn't even emulate a girl's room, because girls like to pluck things on the walls. And he knows I used to do that at home. He knows I was very artistic. So he was like, it doesn't smell you. It doesn't look you. Because I loved oils. Even as a young child, I used to love beautiful things. So he was like, there's nothing here. Everything is brown. Dark. This room is dark, actually. So there's nothing, and even the wardrobes don't know, where are your clothes? And I said, they're in the other girl's room. So who do you sleep with her? Here, the other girl. So why are both your clothes in the other? So it was not coming, does not make sure. So he left it because he thought, I'm cross-questioning a child and maybe she's going through trauma. Maybe this child has been raped, so let me leave it.
Yeah.
So when we got to Harare, my sister had already hooked him up with another family. An amazing family. And this family, remember, my sister also didn't know about the tongue story.
So messed up.
Yeah. So now here's my sister saying, okay, so Sophie's back. Okay, so there's this family that's willing to take Sophie, and she has to just work at their shop sometimes, and it will help to pay her school fees. So my dad was here for it. We met the family. I was there again. Now I'm going to Form 2, which is grade 9. So now I'm going to grade 9, and this family is living in a posh suburb, darling. Woo! Eastleigh, Harare, on Samara Machel Avenue. It was the most beautiful house. Had like probably 10 cars in the yard parked. That's how wealthy they were. So they didn't need money. They weren't asking for money. They just thought, oh, we've got my brother's child here, my sister's child here, my cousin here. It's a big house. There's room for all the girls, and their daughters my age, similar age. So it was like, she'll be our daughter.
Yes.
And Ganeti, they took care of me, paid paid for my school fees, made sure I get taken to school and back. So I went to school in the area. But on weekends, all of us, all the girls, we all worked at the shops, right? You know, as a child, if you're really focused on God, you don't count. Ona ukrele 5 rand, naki krele 2 rand. I don't even remember like who got what. I just remembered we were one.
And was that the first time you felt like you had a full-on family unit?
Yes, absolutely. And then with time, they taught me business. That's where my wedding planning and eventing and chefing and everything started from, because they had many stores. They had a butchery, they had a restaurant, they had a flower shop. They had a dry clean. They had any shop you can think of, they had. So I would choose where I want to work this weekend. So I could either be at the bottle store. Just before, bottle stores were no under 18 or no under whatever. So I could work at the bottle store, little short me, you know, opening cool drinks. So I loved it, you know. So I was taught all these things. And then in the butchery, I was taught how to cut meat, you know. But the old man that was cutting meat in the butchery would put his hands, and then my hands would be on the outside, my little hands would be on the outside, and he said, let's go. And then we cut. So I knew the rhythm. I knew the names of the meats.
It's so weird that I'm drawing such parallels between your story and mine, in the sense that there was a time my father owned a butchery and a bottle store.
Wow.
And I specifically remember being in the cold room.
Yeah.
I was too small to be allowed near the cutting machine, but I did work at the bottle store.
Yeah.
Until I started going through puberty, and boys would come to look, and then my dad sent me to the back to count money. But I'm like, this is so bizarre.
Yeah.
Butchery and
Counting
bottle store,
money. Yeah.
Counting money.
Yeah.
Selling to people.
Yeah.
And I mean, we know times have changed, but for me, that was quite character building.
Yeah.
What do you think you learned from that experience of getting to see how businesses operate?
I mean, I just didn't know, you know, I just believe that God sets you up, right, in an ambience to educate you. And I believe that was part of my journey and part of my process to learn business, because he knew very well that I'm not going to go to university to learn this business. I'm going to learn it on the job. So me going to do different, going to different stores, learning how to make flowers, being taught, this is Oasis, this is what you do with Oasis, you soak it. I knew that at age 14, 13. This is what people learn when they go to floral schools, etc. But I knew that at less than, come on, I wasn't even 14 when I learned how to do that. So for me, I learned so much about business, and that's what, you know, it brought me to how I started my businesses. Because then I didn't have a floral shop, but I became a wedding planner. So what did I do? I did my own flowers most of the time.
Because you had experience.
I had experience. I started chefing. I started, you know, doing people's birthdays and cooking for them, because what I learned on the job, and I also learned at school. What else did I do? I knew money, so money didn't move me. Like if a guy had to say, I'd be like, yeah, but I know money, like more than money that you're showing me. To say you're going to do hair. So I wouldn't date a guy because he's showing me flashing money. I knew money. We would go to all the 5 shops, throw the money in the bedroom on the carpet on the floor, count it, and it goes for banking. So I knew what money tastes like, looks like, feels like.
And you were growing up where you saw what an abundance of money looks like.
Value.
You were exposed.
Yes, and the value of money, because remember, you're counting it. Where is it coming from? It's coming from there. What's happening? You're banking it. Why are you banking it? So that you can get more and multiply. So that multiplication of making money, I learned it from there. I knew, don't keep your eggs in one basket. That's why then it answers those other questions. Why do you think you get bored? I don't get bored, because I'm always doing 20 things at the same time, and I love it, because then it keeps me, I'm stimulated, constantly stimulated. There's never a day of boredom.
So did you fall pregnant while you were still living with them, with your first child?
Oh yes, so that was their son. You got the tea, honey. That was their son.
That was like your brother.
Yeah. On which level?
I mean, no, as in
Step brother, something like that.
Something brother in that lekau fela munku.
No, nalamukhulumon so he was like 8 years older than me or something like that. So he was like, I'll wait for you, you'll grow, you'll be mine. And I was like, I'm here for it.
I'm so dead. How old was he?
He was in his 20s. I was 15, 16, and at 16, because kind of legally, where you can go for family planning and all of that in any clinic in Africa, was like maybe at age 16, because remember, in the old days, people got married very young.
Yeah.
That was the thing. And I was deep in Africa, so it was a very normal thing for a 17-year-old to be married. So at 16 was when he says, right, now you are ready. So my first kiss was him. My first everything was him. My first child was him.
So he was living with you guys in the house?
Yes, but he was living in his own little flatlet somewhere in the yard.
What did the family say when they found out?
They were normal. They weren't shocked. I mean, I think they saw that we were always together. So on Sundays, we'd chill together. He would take me shopping. I mean, he had money. And he taught me how to dress, actually. So that's why I love dressing up. I mean, he was like, this dress will suit you. And he would take me to the Sheraton that was launched then for dinner. I mean, I would sit with the whole everything, candlelight at 16. I would wear heels, wear a beautiful dress, not short, to the knee, but very sexy. Do my hair. He would take me to the salon to do my hair and say, tonight I'm taking you to dinner. So he taught me the value of being treated right by a man, taking me to all these things. I mean, I don't think his parents even knew we go to dinners, because they were too busy. They're running an empire. So why would they be worried? As long as we are home on time and they see all the kids, okay, it's 11 o'clock, everybody's in the house, great. So he knew the times. We do dinner at 7, 8, 9, 9:30, I'm home, then he goes and chills with his friends. So that went on, and then suddenly, bam, I'm pregnant.
How were you shocked that you were pregnant, or were you like, I know what I was doing?
I know what I was doing. I was in love. I know what I was doing. I mean, I wouldn't condone it and say young people should get pregnant. That's why, I mean, with HIV and AIDS, we always talk about teenage pregnancies and how it evolves to getting all these diseases because you're young, you're not yet mature enough to know right and wrong, really.
Yes.
You haven't given yourself time to learn, Uguti, is this a soulmate? What's a soulmate,
Yeah.
Who's your life partner, and why would you consider that person your life partner, and what have they done to qualify to be your life partner, So we never asked. We just thought, I love him. That's the future. Yeah.
So when now you fell pregnant, how did the news get to your parents?
Oh, remember, we're still writing letters. Yes.
So you wrote a letter?
No.
What did
so we're going to marry you. Sophia. So our son is going to marry you. And I said, mm-hmm. And then I said, house, this. And then they said, yeah, they had many houses, and they said, one of the family houses, I'm sure eventually you guys will go live there. And I mean, this was a wealthy family, so I knew I'd have a house with a tennis court, darling. I knew I'd have a house probably with a putt-putt course. I knew I'd have a house with anything fabulous. I knew I'd have a car. I knew I'd have money, but it would not be mine. That's what I knew as well.
So you understood that you're still an outsider.
Yeah, but they were great people. Let's not take that away from them. I mean, for them to even offer that without even my whole family being there, it means they kind of respected me maybe, but I was too young for that kind of respect. And I thought I need to earn my own respect, right? I need to go out there, work hard, and earn my own assets with my partner, mina naye, not what we've been given out of charity by his parents. Yes, so I can understand. But now I can't take ownership and say, my kitchen, my bathroom, my house. Like a lot of young women, we want them to take ownership, and we get so frustrated when we see them wanting and they're not even married. And I'm like, if you're married, you can say my house because your man bought you this house.
Yes.
But now if you are given by his family, it will never be your house. I understood that, and I came back home.
So you said, thanks, that was nice, but I'm going to go back home.
I'm going to go back home and tell them what you've just told me. I'll be back.
So when was the first time your parents found out you were pregnant? Was it when you went back home?
When I arrived.
They saw? And
this is a poverty-stricken family. You must understand, Rekokasi, Nobody's working really because everybody's sick. But pension. My mother is not even yet on pension. So reja pension yang Nkgono. Nkgono is earning 150 rands per month. And my grandfather was still alive, yes, when I got back. So he was also giving in the 150, but then he died. Then we left with my grandmother. So my grandmother, we are all surviving. And that's where we take a skoloto. And here I am, I'm a child. And I promised them I'm coming back. That's where all the money is. But I was not there for the money. So I was like, I'm going back to poverty. I'm trusting God that promised me that his promises are yes and amen. And I knew, God said, if you trust me and you work hard and you seek me, you'll find me and I'll bless you. So I was on that Jeremiah 29:11. I'm going to find you and you're going to bless me and you're going to forgive me all my sins, everything that I did as a young girl. I went to my mom and I said, darling, you're going to earn pension now. Can you give it to me? She looked at me. Give you my pension? And I said, I hear you. Can we have a and I said, give me your 150. It was now 155. It moved from 150. It was 155. And I said, give me your 155, all of it. She says, all of it. I said, yeah. She says, what's going to happen? I said, nothing's changing. We're still eating the tapul. We're still eating cabbage. We're still collecting the box to go clinicking when we go and inject the child immunization. So we're still living. Let's continue to live like that until I change this life. She says, how? I went back to the multiplication that I learned. I took that 155 and I translated it to thousands within a year.
So did you ever go back then to Bulawayo?
To that lady?
No, with the family, because you said, I'll come back.
No, that's Harare now. Remember that Bulawayo was the
Form evil
1.
Step, the Cinderella story.
The Cinderella story.
Sorry.
Form 2 is now Harare, the fabulous family. Yes.
So did you ever go back?
No.
You just ghosted them?
Not,
did you write a letter?
I wrote a letter to the father of my child. And, he was giving me vibes of that might not even be my child. And I'm like, but we made this child together and I don't have a boyfriend. You're my only boyfriend. He says, but you're talking to other guys. And I said, talking is talking. So what? I'm a young girl. I talk to my fellow students. Why not? Why was I supposed to be in a corner? And he says, no. So eventually he wrote me a letter and apologized for his attitude. And he says, that is my child and I know it for real. And his mother came, brought me a cloth and put it on my stomach. So all this was happening while I was pregnant. Put a cloth on my stomach before we give birth, and they said, when you're ready, please come home so we can welcome the child. I never went back. Now I was all about, let me multiply. You taught me everything I need to know. You were so amazing to me. You taught me business. I'm going to activate what I learned.
Wow.
So I activated what I learned. My first job, whilst I was modeling, because modeling wasn't every day, my first job was to be a credit controller. And in the credit control department, there were probably 300 ladies. And on weekends, I was earning 1,000 rand a month. And I was kind of like a coordinator because I spoke very well, very good English. So the guy, the boss was like, Wena, you're going to coordinate all their shifts and whatever. And I said, great. So on Saturday, we're doing overtime and I made an announcement. I was bold. Stood there and I said, ladies, I get really busy. So how really busy so? Here's a list. You can order meat, we'll pre-cut it, pre-package it. Where did I learn it?
Back there.
So here I was, cooler boxes, delivering meat to the credit control department, delivering meat to them. The cooler boxes are named. They deliver them to me. I don't even have a car to save my life. I've got a transport system. I've got a butchery that's halal, that I've already done a deal. I'm like, your meat is what, 20 rand per kilo? 60 rand per kilo. I want it at 55 because I know you get it at 45 at the abattoir. Really? How do you know this? You're too young to know. And I say, I know everything. I know how you make money. So I wanted less. And then Bali, if I get it 55 rand from this side, I sell it at 75 on the other side because go butchering, it's 85. And I prove
it.
So
it's still cheaper for them to come by you?
Yes. And by Tolaka month, end up patal. So I get it consignment, deliver, they pay. So instead of earning 1,000 rand a month, I was earning like 8 grand a month then.
Wow.
From the profit making.
So Mama trusted you. What did you do with that 155?
Clothes, transport, interviews. That's how I got that job.
Yes.
Kalama taxi, took some of her clothes, cut them, I did home economics, whatever. So cut some of her clothes, made them shorter, made them skinnier to fit me. And I ran with it. I didn't have clothes. I ran with what I had until I could afford it.
So Mama is the one now. It's fast forward to Mama taking care of your child. And you're saying, I'm going to honor you.
Yeah.
Is Papa still around at this point?
Papa was around for ages. Yes, Papa was still around. Grandma passed on as this was happening. It was now me, my mom, my dad, myself. Yeah, my sister. My late sister, my other sister, my late sister, my sister who stayed in Joburg. So, so it was me and them, and all I did was really change their lives and keep my promise and clean up the house, do whatever it is, put in new furniture, put in a music. You know, Techniques music system was like the thing. Because Kadi Sundays are free for stupid doll.
Oh,
Mametsi Sunday, Mametsi bo Edizondi baby.
Yes.
Mametsi Metro, you know,
Yes.
and it's happening on a Sunday. And Kamo pechile 7 colors. What is like it's off like a chef.
Yes.
So pechile 7 colors and people go starting about this aroma. I loved it. So I would stand at the gate and say, do I smell anything? You know, so that when people pass, even my friends, so pechile happy, get to order cakes.
So
I was making money with anything and everything.
So at some point, because you became a pageant girl, and at the time it was frowned upon and pretty much against the rules to be a mother.
I hate that.
Your child was your sister.
My sister, yes.
Kochai.
Yes.
And your mother was the one taking responsibility. And you were obviously now on the up and up publicly. You're in pageants. When did people actually find out you're a mother? Because you hid it for so long.
Yeah, they didn't even have to find out. I told them, this is my daughter. True Love magazine. A drum.
And how old was she at the time?
I'm sure she was maybe 4, 5, 6. I can't remember.
Was the public shocked?
I think they weren't as snoopy as they are now. They didn't care. They were like, wow, cute. You know, I don't know. I think not even 6, 7. I'm lying. She was probably 10.
At that time?
At that time. She was in primary school, where only the teacher was like, she looks like you. And I said, yes, she's my daughter. That's when I was now married. So I said, yeah. So people found out as it went on. I mean, there was no like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.
There
to
was
talk
in
that.
drum.
It was in drum.
And
Story.
Yes.
Daily Sunday worldly in drum.
So when you got married,
Yeah.
did you feel comfortable because it looked better that you're married and have a child? Or was it because I'm done with the pageant thing, I don't care anymore?
I don't care. It was never about, oh, lenyalo, I need to keep up appearances. I was not going to keep up appearances for nobody. I was living my life and I was doing it my way. And luckily, my husband then was very kind enough to say, no, Tisabana, together. But I was still, remember, all over trying to build my career. So they only came when they were almost finishing primary school, with my sister's daughter as well, came in, and I brought them up together. And you know, before you know it, they were in high school and gone to boarding school.
How did you start to, because you've mentioned before, okay, there was a period where you weren't raising your own child. How did you guys start to rebuild a mother-daughter relationship? Because we've heard stories.
It was hard.
It still happens today where
Mama, ke uswa hao.
but it's your mom.
Nambiza Sophie, abita my mom, Mama. And even today, she still says that was my real mom. Because remember, I was not a present mom. I wasn't that mom who was there, you know, to go watch a soccer match or the netball match or whatever at school. My mother was the one, or I'd just come fetch or send a driver. That's how busy I was. So we must also be very careful as we're building our careers to not miss the key moments. And those are the moments that up to today I regret. And I'm like, I was building an empire, but I compromised it. I compromised my children. You understand? And I needed to create that balance, but nobody taught me the balance. I could have known business very well, but nobody taught me the balance of motherhood and business, and saying, how do you strike that balance? Married or not married, you've got no excuse.
I mean, I can see how it would happen because you had so many drivers that were pushing you.
Yeah.
When you started to see success where people now are interested in you, did you ever feel like you wanted to out the people who had wronged you? Because there was now the man that your sister was married to, there was the evil stepmother at where they were fostering you. Was there ever a part of you that was like, look at me now?
Not even. I'll still say the fear of God just made me say, you're gonna punish them your way. Let me not interfere if they're punishable. That's another thing. Maybe it was part of my journey to learn something. Sometimes things, God stages them for a purpose and a reason, right? So as a child of God, you learn that some things are staged for your lessons. Not everything is there to destroy you. Some and most things are there to build you, interestingly enough. And there's no age limit to the lessons that you learn through a good or a bad journey.
Did you ever hear anything about the lady that was abusive towards you? Or after you left, that's the last time?
No, I don't think she even thought she was abusive. I think she was just an evil person who just thought she was doing what pleases her, and she carried on as she carried on. And I think my mistake that I regret is not going back to save the other two. You understand? Because I just believe that, wherever they ended up, I just hope that they ended up in a good place, because I was too young. I think I shut it out. It was just such a traumatic experience. I shut out. That's why today you can ask me their names and I'm like, I don't remember. How do you forget that? You get my point? So the only way I can explain forgetting their names is really trauma. And people don't understand mental health and the importance of healing from something that broke you internally, because you're not externally speaking to people about it. It's your secret. So I never told anybody. You know what I mean? Even my dad tried to play his mind games of asking me, and I never told. And he realized this child is okay. At least I've saved her, and I don't think anybody ever touched her, because she says, do you talk to Ntato Muntlung? And I said, no, we hardly see him. So that's when my dad knew that, okay, she wasn't abused.
Yes.
Because he was never home. If he was home, we never saw him. It wasn't like, oh, happy days, Sunday, let's have Sunday lunch as a family. Nah.
It wasn't that vibe.
I used to have lunch at church instead.
Sure.
Yeah.
As you were saying, then I was married. It dawned on me, I was like, oh, I remember the first husband. And we're not going to delve into all of that. But I do want to know, what was the lesson you learned coming out of that first marriage? Because something positive you're sharing is that he said, Kisabana.
Yeah.
Even your sister's child that you have adopted, now Gingwana how. What was the biggest lesson you learned from that marriage?
I just learned love. You get married as a young girl. I was young when I got married. I think I was 21. And I just learned love. And even when I was 24, 25, and I had my son at 25, I felt like I was 30, meaning the level of maturity, the level of respect. You get what I'm trying to say, where you have a whole family unit. But the unfortunate part is that, I was too young, and I had not lived the life of a young girl. So I would never regret any decisions that I made at the time, because I was a pregnant teenager, had to be a breadwinner to my entire family. Remember? 155 Rand. Then I got married very young, and I had a career that I was trying to push. And then I remembered, there's life out there. And then I wanted to do life. I wanted to go out there, go partying, go picnicking, go do all the things young girls do. Because I never had a chance to be a teenager. I never had a chance to be a young adult. I never had a chance. So in my early 30s, that's when I wanted to be seen. And I was like, okay, there's a club. Wow, let's go clubbing. And that's not for a married woman. That's not an ambience for a married woman. So that's why I say I loved everything about marriage, but I think because of where I started, I didn't give myself a chance to be a young girl.
Yes.
And I wanted to be a young girl again. That's just it.
Well, you pretty much didn't have a childhood if majority of it was you saying, I need to save this, I need to do this. Let me write a letter and say I need to go to boarding school. You didn't have a childhood. Are you feeling like you're at a phase in your life right now where you're allowing yourself to explore your inner child more that never got to and live a carefree life.
You know, a lot of people say to me, oh, you know, most times you look younger than your age, and, you know, you've got younger friends and mature friends mixed. And really that comes from a space of, I've got a young soul as opposed to an old soul. So I've got an old soul because I know things.
Yes.
You know, experience, I've got the wisdom. But I've got a young soul because I'm still there. I'm still catching up. You know, and people wondered, why do you date younger people than you? Why do you do this? And I say, I'm more attracted to them. And it's not a matter of ngwana, an adult that's just younger than me.
Yeah.
And initially they would call it toy boy, that nonsense that they would call people. But I just believe that if you're with a mature partner, in heaven there's no age.
Yes.
There's no age difference. And I believe as a child of God, if God has given me the youth within me to be at a certain level mentally, I embrace it with everything I have, because it gives me joy to feel and look younger. To not try, I'm not trying to be younger. I'm not wearing the hot panelly, the miniskirt to try to feel like I'm younger. No, even with my long pants, as long as my soul, my mind, my body, my spirit says, I feel young, I feel alive again. That's it.
I know you've spoken at length about your health, how your children have saved your life. With you taking charge of your health, because there were many, many years where I remember you were telling me just about the millions of diets you had tried. I know at one point, I'll tell you what I remember. You spoke about the cabbage soup diet.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
But why? And maybe help me get into your mind space. Why was the diabetes in this time so different? Why was it different that it made you fully take charge? Why was this time different to the other times? Is it because previously you didn't have any health scares, that maybe you just wanted to lose weight and be the model version you were before? And now there was a different reason.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, when I was slightly on the fuller figure side, we call it fuller figure because we're sexy as a fuller figure with women, darling.
Yes.
And I will never look at a full-figured woman and think she's not sexy. I think they're sexier than skinny women, period. Even though I've lived both lives.
Yes.
And I never loved being skinny at all, because it was more an illness more than the diet. So when I was on the fuller side and I tried all these diets and nothing really worked. I mean, gym is the only thing that really worked, because at the time I lost 10 kilos from just going to gym and drinking water and walking and all of these things. So that was my success story of losing weight. But then I get it goes like this, because you've got a busy schedule, you still eat bad and all of that. So when I had the health scare, diabetes, I still didn't lose weight because I was still overweight. They called it obese. And the doctor said you need to cut your weight so that you can manage the levels, your sugar, how otherwise it's going to give you a lot of complications, from kidney failure to heart conditions, renal failure in its totality. So obviously I was on that mission. And eventually I went into depression of my own private things, and through that depression I stopped eating. I would look at a plate and eat maybe 2 spoons, and then gradually my sugar levels went higher because I wasn't taking my medication as I should, lost a lot of weight, everything uncontrolled, and eventually I looked like a skeleton, and the whole country was up in arms for what happened. And it was just depression. Depression is a danger, you know, like when they say mental health and they say international mental health or whatever it is that they call it, we need to pay attention to this is not a joke. You know, it literally shuts down your whole life. I mean, I lost everything because of my mental health issues. I lost my businesses, I lost my homes, I lost a lot. And I just believe that if my mind was in the right space and I was not depressed and traumatized during that season, I wouldn't have lost anything. My empire would be intact. In fact, it would have tripled. Or went even higher than the level that it was. I mean, I had trucks and homes and cars and anything that you could think of I had. Any country you could think of I traveled. So there's nothing I lacked. You know, I just made wrong decisions and I don't regret them. I just feel like it's made me a better person. It's made me maybe leaning towards my purposeful life, where I'm able to now educate other business people, other women, and say, Bona, don't make the same mistakes I made, you know, and that was that journey.
Were you active in the losing of things? Because you have people who will say, and I just decided to sell the house. Or was it a place where you were not in a mental state to be active about your situation? Things were taken. That's how you lost it.
Yeah. I mean, I had a house in Durban, lost it. I had a holiday home in Durban, I lost it. I had timeshare, lost it. I had anything that a person would want to live that life. I had two homes in the same estate. I lost one, and that one, it wasn't auctioned. I actually sold it, like you say. I sold it to save it, if you understand what I mean, to save myself. You know, so I made a decision. I said, I've got two houses, and you know, let me sell it. And I sold it, and what else did I do? And then obviously at the end of the day, I lost my cars. I lost everything that was luxury pinned to it. I lost it, and I had to start afresh. And I was there for it. And I just thought, yeah, maybe I will let clean out, you know, and let me start afresh. And I was very happy to start afresh. Very, very happy to start afresh. It was a painful season, and I knew I had to stand for it. I knew I needed to be bold for it. And I needed to know that it's not going to be easy. You know, when you wake up and your entire body's aching, neck down, especially your feet, divutaso.
Yes.
Almost like this fire inside. And I would bath with bath salts, because at the time I'd lost everything. And you know, when you don't even have money for bubble bath, and you use or bath salts that you used to call like your thing,
yes.
and you're using grof salt, and I would put grof salt in
Going
that bath.
Going back to the basics.
Yes, honey. And I was there for it. I said, God, scala pants, Azish, let's go.
Were your children at all disappointed, frustrated, angry?
Everything.
The whole list.
The whole list. But yes, they could have been disappointed, but they never said it to my face to say, you can see it in their eyes. You can see it. The kids that had everything. Look, you know, you look at your son and how he has everything, and how he says, Mommy, can I have this? And it's not like a movie to get it. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, not today, babe. Not because you can't afford it, but it's like, not today. You've had too many candies. Like, not today. Yeah.
Oh, man. And I never thought about it from that perspective till we're speaking about it now. Because, you know, children don't see material things up until a certain age.
Yeah.
And then they start to understand the power.
Yeah.
And then it's not just the power of the money and the material things, it's the power of influence of having a famous mom.
On top of it, yes.
On top of it, ne? Which means there are certain privileges, but also there's the downside. You can get bullied at school, multiple things.
Oh, my son was bullied a lot.
Is this now when you had lost things, or while things were good?
He was bullied growing up in Jay because he had friends, and you know, they would do certain things to him, bully him, and I would say, my darling, you're royalty. If you're not royalty, nobody's gonna bully you. People pay attention to things that are big. You're big. If people pick on you, you're big. They don't pick on useless people. And that's the only lesson I could give him, to say, when they pick on you, remember your royalty. Remember, they want to be you. They want to be like you. Otherwise, if you're boring, why do they want to be you? Why would they want to be associated or talk to you, even touch you? So, I mean, those are the things that as a mother you have to just cover up and find a way. How do you deal with a broken child who feels like they're bullying me and you don't have time? Your schedule is very, very busy. You can't be going to school every day. They bully him. You know, you send the father is there, but it's like, okay, but I want you, mommy, to come and talk to them, because my mom, if you talk to them, they know you're queen. Yes. You know, when you get there, you're going to make it better. And so, you know, it had its ups and downs, you know, having a famous mom. But I think more than anything, these kids lived the most luxurious life you can ever think of, because, you know, every quarter it was a holiday there, holiday there, holiday there. Then suddenly nothing. Doesn't matter the age. They're used to it. They grew up with it. My daughter grew up with it. You know,
Did you tell them? Did you sit and say, guys, I'm sure you can see.
Yeah.
This is what's happening. Or were you too deep in your depression to even sit and have such conversations?
No. Remember, when I went back home to start over, my kids already knew. They were like my breadwinners.
Wow.
Yes, they were the ones buying the groceries. They were the ones is saying, okay, I brought your tracksuit. They were the ones doing stuff like that. So, and they were the ones saying, you need to get this so that you can get that, and they were the ones just literally taking care of my well-being, where you expect friends or people to come and say, let's do this, my kids were the number one cheerleaders. And yes, there were friends that are a handful that really played such an important role in my healing process. And, another one took me to a psychologist. The other one would just say, oh, I sent you money. The other one would say this. So there are friends indeed that, when you say sisterhood and whatever, they were there. Definitely they were there, So for me, I still say it's what structures you put in place before you lose everything that matter. And those were the lessons that I learned. If I had structured certain things, it's almost like a will. You're not gonna die. You're gonna die, but you don't have a will.
Yes.
I mean, Bona, you feel, I'm so young. I'm a young mom. Like, please, I still have 20 years to catch up and do into the wheel. And then something happens to you. What happens to your child? So it's the same thing. Like, I was never ready for the tragic things that happened in my life alive, not dead. So I was dead inside because of the losses that just kept building and building. The share of that, the share of this, it was not stopping, and when you go to the stores, you find people are whispering, oh, did you know she lost this, she lost that? And I just thought, you need to be bold, Sophie. You need to be bold. You need to fight a good fight. You've got children and you need to reinvent yourself. And this time, come back better and stronger, doing something fresh, right? So that's what then led to me focusing on the wellness thing that we're speaking of. How did I then launch Sophie on Wellness? And why was it so important? And I just felt like people can die. The Bible says without knowledge, people will perish. So for me, I thought, I've done weddings. I've traveled the world. I've done weddings all over the world. So I'm still doing weddings there and there, but it's not like the highlight of my life. I want to be a wedding planner, I want to be seen. I've been seen, honey. My weddings I've done it all. So for me, it was like, let me do things that make me happy. If doing your wedding makes me happy, I'm going to plan it and I'm going to make it the most beautiful thing ever. You know what I'm saying? But it's not my target. Advertise, I want you to come, and that's where I'm at now. So I'm doing things that please me. She's a Wonder is one of the things that pleases me. She's a Wonder is a program where I'm teaching women to fight, to reignite the fire in them. We had it a few weeks ago and it was such a success. It's the second year and it was a success because I kind of am finding the model. Because when you're starting, you're still finding the model. You're still finding your place. You're testing. And you're also ready to know attacks will come on the other side. So for me, it was like successfully I brought in people that are going to teach women how the model, reinvent yourself. What are the tools you need? You need to know how to manage a bank account. You need to know what are your investments and why do we call them investments and what kind of investments you need. You need to know how to look good to reinvent yourself so that you retain your energy. I mean, how we do our makeup before we even come to your podcast. We're setting ourselves up for fabulosity. And so that when people are watching, they're like, these women I can listen to. They
look like they've got their things together.
But they're simple. But it is sneakers.
Yes.
And they chilled out. Sophie with her little operation healing and she keeps putting her foot up because it's getting crampy.
Yes.
But my point is that we are reigniting and we keep fighting on, and that's what She's a Wonder is about. Constantly fighting a new fight, equipping yourself with knowledge so that you are able to restart your business. Remember, Sophie lost everything. So what is she doing? She's restarting her businesses, but she's also opening new doors and saying, I want to do this. I want to do a She's a Wonder. It's a foundation. I also want to do Sophie on Wellness. It's to heal women. I'm now a wellness coach. I'm teaching people how to eat well, how to think well, working with the best dietitians in the country, working with the best psychologists in the country. So for me, it's like, I'm here. Knock on my door. I'll be able to help you. I'll be able to connect you. So that's my new purpose, helping people.
Can I take us back a little bit to your firstborn?
Yeah.
So at some point, the dad acknowledges, this is my child.
Yeah.
Does he ever become a presence in her life?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, right now they have the best. Whatever she's doing, he knows. Just 2 days ago, he was talking to her, and she was telling me, oh, dad says this. So they have a full-on relationship, and she's not a teenager. She's a grown woman. She's in her early 30s, and she's living her life, and she's connected to her dad, and they talk almost every week. So, and I know it, you know. So for me, even when I was ill, he would talk through her to say, how's your mother? Is she recovering? You know, tell her I'm sending best wishes. So all those things. So that for me gave me comfort to know, solved. She's connected to her father. I've done something great. And that's the most important thing ever.
So how come, and maybe it was your decision. I get it now, you were being breadwinner to mom, dad, your child's sister at the time.
Yeah.
Did you never ask him, did he never initiate sending money to help for his child, or were you so adamant to say, I'm doing this on my own?
I was doing it on my own, but he helped there and there. When I remember, and Udula England, so he would send pounds. So I'd be like, yes, honey, I'm here for them. Either somebody's coming, flying in, they'll give you money, they'll meet you. And then I just loved looking at them. I loved money. So I just loved looking at them. Oh, the pounds. Get it out.
I don't know about and you're looking at the pounds.
And I'm saying, I get change. So only when I travel internationally, I use the pounds.
Yes.
Do you get my point? So it was just an amazing thing. So I never really needed his money, but he participated when I felt like remembering.
Yes.
So it was never, I'm blocking you. Never, ever.
I get you.
And I think also he had his own things going on internationally where, you know, when she was then a little grown to understand, they created their own little rapport. He would send her money privately. So I also wanted a piece, but not really, you know. But it was just that joy that she has contact, and they are having their own relationship, and it's a beautiful one, and I'm happy for it.
And the other children, including your adopted daughter, what are their relationships like with their fathers?
Oh, wonderful. Everything. I mean, to me, it's like, it's a beautiful family. It's just me who broke it. You understand? I'm the one who broke it. And you know, as a person, when I just believe that you need to take responsibility for the mistakes that you make. You need to take ownership. You know, even if divorces come and people say, are you going to get married again? I said, yes, honey, I am. Because I've learned. And it's not about, I'm in a rush. Remember, I've been out of a marriage for 4 years, so I'm not in a rush. But what I'm trying to say is that I've learned from all of that. So the biggest joy as a mother is to make sure that your children have connections with their family, with you, knowing where you stand as a mother, because they're looking and saying, but mom made so many mistakes. You know, she must give us a break, Nati. We must have time to make mistakes. And I say, the fact that they can see mom making mistakes and mom fixing.
And owning up.
That's already lessons for them as young ladies, because they're not teenagers, they're young ladies, so young women. So it's that thing, I believe that through my challenges, they've also learned what to run away from, what to avoid. But life is such a journey that they will learn their own lessons, they will go through their own journeys, they will go through their own challenges, they will go through their own traumas, because nobody's immune.
So when you say you broke the families, what is it specifically? And I'm not talking about the actions, but what do you think the root cause is when you say? Is it because the family setup made you feel tied down? Is it because you felt like you couldn't fully be yourself? Like when you say you're the one who broke it.
I'm the one who broke it. Remember, the minute you break your first marriage, you've broken everything. Even as a child of God, you've broken everything, because that's the foundation. That's where you're supposed to start and stop. You get my point? So the fact that I broke it then when they were little kids, I mean, my son was probably 4 years old. You understand? I mean, here he is, you know, playing as mommy's in the bathroom, he's playing with his little car, and the family is broken. That's tragic, darling. Doesn't matter how you look at it. Doesn't matter what I was looking for out there. That's tragic, because if I had kept that family unit together, no matter what my aspirations or strata or whatever, if I'd kept that family unit together, it means all these traumas that followed would have not really happened, because I would have sacrificed my own joys. Remember, all these things happened because I was selfish and I wanted to be seen, and I wanted to do things. And I believe a lot of young people, they make those kind of mistakes even today, but I say, when you find something solid and something good, nurture it, grow it. The same way you grow a business. I was running an empire. So even your home must be like your empire, right? You need to nurture it, grow it, look at the ups and downs, and kind of find ways. Okay, strategize this thing that I don't like, it can be fixed like this. What's my compromise? And I think as young people, or as a young person then, I lacked a lot of compromise, because I was more like, can I freedom? I can talk now, I can do this on my own. And that's the arrogance a lot of young people have when they are super successful. The ones that are not super successful usually need a man to back them up. I didn't. You understand?
Did you let these men know that you didn't need them?
Yeah, I think I just believe that as a young person, you will always make people know without even saying anything, because they see with your actions that, oh, she's able to do this. Oh, when she moves, she does this. Oh, when she does this, she does that. So I just believe that you self-sabotage as a person. And I think I self-sabotage myself so many times. Then I care, initially, how kwatilo ke fault ga Relebogile, ke fault ga Jabulani, ke fault ga Mpho, ke fault ga Smamang. But really, when you look at it, you were in control. You were supposed to be in control. Who was supposed to be in control if you are not supposed to be in control? Do you get my point?
So what were you able to salvage when you lost everything? Because at some point you kept your one home, ne? That was your main home. Yeah. That now you're starting from scratch. What did from scratch look like? Because the from scratch I did fine. Some people saw from scratch was means a big room go Soweto. Like what?
Yeah,
was
from scratch. From scratch was bills. You can have any home. A home is a lot, but because you were not taught to buy a home cash, even if you have the money. You had the millions, but you still bought it. You get what I'm trying to say? So all the things that I had them gaskoloto. All the ones that I lost. All the ones that I kept. And for me, it was like starting afresh. On zero, literally. So if you want to know, I started at zero. Just so that I put it clear. Yes. I started on zero. No car, no nothing. I started on zero because I'd lost everything. And it was such a rewarding thing to be able to acknowledge that and breathe and start again. And what was I able to salvage? I was able to salvage myself. Right? Why was I able to salvage myself? Because I had to say, am I fighting? Where am I going? I was on my deathbed, darling. So it was like, do you die or do you live? Choose. And you can only choose one. You can't choose both.
Did you choose to live for you or for your children?
For my children and for me. Because you see, how do you live for your children when you can't live for you? So for me, I had to live for me first. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't pour from a zero Sophie. You can't refix from a zero Sophie and say it's for the kids or whatever. I needed to do it for me. Because remember, if I do it for me, I'm a better person, which means I can be a better person for my children. You get what I'm saying? So for me, it was like I needed to fix Sophie, fight, accept everything that I lost, and not look back.
Where are you today in terms of how you feel about yourself and your life?
I feel proud. Like how people say, what would you say to Sophie, the younger Sophie?
Yes.
So we're not talking the younger Sophie, talking the Sophie now. I would say, I'm so proud of you, girl. You did it. You fought through death. You fought death and you said, lose my address. You fought worrying about what people think. You fought pleasing people. You fought not being embarrassed about starting over. You fought reinventing yourself. You fought sitting your kids down and saying, I am better and I can be better. With kids with weary eyes thinking, really? Are you? Because you don't know what they're thinking, remember. You can never know what they're thinking. But saying, I promise you I'm going to be better. You know, it's almost like a druggie who comes out of rehab. I felt like that. I felt like a person who was in a hospital, and I came out and I just came out from AA, and
they don't trust you.
And they don't trust Hore. What's in that cupboard? That's how I feel my kids felt. Like, in that cupboard, is there still alcohol? Are you going to start again, and then we're going to go back to the AA thing? So whatever mistakes I made, I almost felt like I do not want to disappoint my kids again. I'm going to do my best. And I think a lot of women struggle to reinvent themselves because they think it's too late. Saying mdala manje, mdala to who? You know what I mean? So for me, that mdala thing, you must put it in the bin, literally, and start over. So for me, it was like, mdala. To God, I'm still a child, which means He will help me to reinvent myself, to be, if I want to feel like a young woman again, I'll feel like a young woman again, but a mature young woman who is reinventing herself. So I believe in my spirit, I'm young, I'm starting over, it's a new season. I've got kids, instant kids. Hallelujah. Yes. I don't have to be pregnant.
Yes.
But I'm starting over in a more competitive world. You know, when I started out business, it was easy. Not a lot of people were business people or aspired to be in business. Remember, it was all graduate. I'm now a doctor, I'm now a lawyer, I'm now a teacher, I'm now a policewoman, I'm now a nurse. And business was like very far from South Africans. And I came in, and that's why I leveled up so quickly, because I came with talent from my family that taught me business.
Skills and experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when I came in as a young person, acting, modeling, and doing business simultaneously, it was unheard of. That's why it became so successful. And maybe that's why I also lost myself in between, because I didn't have time to be a young person, time to learn lessons and grow gradually. It's almost like press button, start, go.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
I absolutely just love that, like you said, starting over, you owned it, you embraced it.
Yeah.
Even with the understanding that of the impact it has on your children.
Yeah.
You are recovering with the ankle, almost ready to wear high heels
Almost
again.
ready,
I know
still doing physio.
You're polishing the heels just to get back into
I was
them.
packing my wardrobe yesterday with my like 800 pairs of shoes and boots, and I was like, so 365 days I could just wear a new shoe post.
You can.
Get an Instagram post, another one.
You can do it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We love you, and I hope you feel like your flowers have been given for the work that you've done in this industry.
Yeah.
I see you as an icon. The way you speak about loving nice things, like I love that you own that about yourself, because you've worked so hard.
Yeah.
And may we all learn from what you went through. We don't all have to go through that experience to learn.
We can prevent it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I wish you well. I'm going to keep stalking you as I do online. Keep talking to you.
Yes.
And just admiring your work and also just your advocacy for women's health and wellness.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I think we must have more conversations where now we are beginning to change lives for people, helping them save themselves through our own lessons, through my own lessons. And thank you for the opportunity, so that we can speak to women, and so that women can begin to follow She's a Wonder and follow Sophie on Wellness, and get to the point where wherever they need help, they're saying there's somebody who I know, Sofla and she's there, and I can ask her and she'll answer.
From the horse's mouth.
Yes.
You heard it yourselves. Don't forget to subscribe. Comment down below and let us know who else you'd love to see on the Relebogile Mabotja Podcast. Until next time.